If you've ever wondered just how good the highest rated recipes on Food Network's website are, then you are going to love today's video. I am going to be making the highest rated recipes in 3 different categories in today's video so you know which ones are must tries. The highest rated chicken recipe is for Giada's Chicken Piccata. So that is the first recipe that we are going to make in today's video. I'm just starting out with a couple of chicken breasts and I'm going to butterfly them. So you want to cut them in half horizontally to butterfly them, but then you're going to cut all the way through because you do want thinner pieces of chicken for this recipe. You could also just buy chicken breast that is already like thinly sliced to make it easier on yourself, but if you already have chicken breast on hand, you just want to go ahead and butterfly it and then cut it in half. Next up, all you want to do is season the chicken breast with some salt and some pepper, and then what we're going to do is dredge this in some flour. So you want to make sure that you season this pretty well with salt and pepper on both sides before going into the flour. But I just put a little bit of all-purpose flour onto a plate, and then I'm just going to dip the pieces of chicken breast in one at a time, and I try to really press it down into the flour to make sure I get a good coating. Then you're going to heat up some olive oil along with some butter, and then once the butter has melted and that olive oil has heated up, you're going to add the chicken in and you're going to basically like pan fry it on both sides. It's going to take about, depending on the thickness of your chicken breast, I would say anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes on each side. You want to watch it because you want to make sure that you get it cooked and like nice and crispy, but you don't want to overcook the chicken. So once my chicken is brown on the one side, I'm going to go ahead and flip it over. It took mine about 2 to 3 minutes each side. And then you want to remove that from the pan. And then into the pan, you're going to add in some chicken broth along with some lemon juice and some capers that have been rinsed. And then you're just going to bring that up to a boil, kind of let it reduce down a little bit, and then add your chicken breast back into it. And then I like to flip it in the sauce so that way both sides get coated in the sauce. Then you just let it cook for just a few minutes before we remove the chicken breast again. And then you're going to finish off the sauce with a little bit more butter at the end. Now, I did not measure the amount of oil in this, so I think that's why my sauce was a little bit oily, but the flavor was amazing, and we would definitely give this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Next up, the highest rated pot roast recipe. We were craving some pot roast, wanted something a little bit comforting, so I decided to give this recipe a try, and it is from Ree Drummond. And so I'm just going to start out by peeling the carrots. Now, the recipe said not to peel them, but I couldn't not peel them. So I went ahead and peeled them, and then you just want to cut them into about 2-inch pieces and remove like the little tops from it. And then you're going to just have 2 onions. So I just cut them in half and removed the outer like peel, and then that's all you have to do with the onions. You don't have to dice them or slice them, anything. It was really quick and easy to like prep everything for this dinner. So I'm just going to go in with some olive oil into my hot cast iron like oven safe pan here, and what I'm going to do is start out by browning the onions. So all you're going to do is cook them for a couple of minutes on each side, and you do want to flip them and do the other side, and it's just to start the cooking process, get some flavor on the onions, I'm assuming, and they were really good, so I definitely do recommend this step. But after they have cooked for a couple of minutes, you're going to remove them from the pan, and we're going to do the same thing with the carrots. So you're just going to add those carrot pieces in and just kind of toss them around for a few minutes to start getting some color on them. It's just going to help to add another level of flavor to the pot roast. And then once they had a little bit of color, I removed them from the pan, and then we went in with our chuck roast, and I went ahead and seasoned this with salt and pepper before placing it into the pan, and then I am going to sear it on all sides. Now, normally for pot roast, I cook mine in a crock pot. Her recipe is in the oven, but you could absolutely make this in a crock pot, and honestly, I think I would have preferred doing it that way. You could still go in and sear all the vegetables and the meat and then just throw it into the crock pot. I just think it'd be easier, and that's just how I prefer to make my pot roast. But once the meat was browned, I went ahead and removed it from the pan, and then you're going to go in with beef broth. There was wine in the recipe, which was optional, so I did leave it out. And then you're going to add your vegetables back in, place a lid on it, and then it's going to go in the oven at 275 degrees for about 3 to 4 hours, depending on the size of your roast. Mine was a smaller roast and it was more toward the 4-hour mark. I almost forgot to mention we do add in some herbs here. So I went in with some sprigs of thyme and rosemary per the recipe and just kind of try to press them into that broth, and then you're going to place it into the oven. But again, you could absolutely do this in a crock pot. So you'll know that it's done when the meat is like fall apart tender, and so you can see here that it's just shredding and falling apart really easily. And the meat was really tender. You could taste the herb notes to it, but this is not my favorite pot roast. My husband and I both said like 3 out of 5 stars. Now, the top rated cookie recipe also is a Giada recipe, and it is her lemon ricotta cookies. And spoiler alert, these are a 10 out of 5. Everyone loved these. These are absolutely amazing and a must make recipe. So you're just going to start out by combining some flour along with baking soda and a little bit of salt. And I did half of this recipe. I wish I would not have done that because these flew. I took them to work and everyone loved them. My husband loved them. My family loved them. They're so good. But you're just going to set the dry ingredients to the side, and then you're just going to cream together some butter along with some sugar. And then you're going to add in, the recipe calls for 2 eggs, 1 at a time. But again, I was doing half of the recipe, so I just added in 1 egg. And then I just thoroughly beat that with my mixer until it was well combined. I cannot get over how good these cookies were, and I'm telling you, like I said before, you really need to try them. They are so good. They're refreshing with the lemon flavor, but sweet. Just, they're perfect. Like, the texture is amazing. Really good cookies. So once you have that mixed together, you're just going to zest in some lemon zest. And then you do want to use fresh lemon for this recipe. I think anytime you're using lemon in a dessert, it really does need to be fresh because the flavor is so prominent. So if you're using the lemon juice that's in a container, you're just not going to get the same flavor that you would if you were using a fresh lemon. Plus, this recipe calls for the zest, so you do want to use it. And then you're going to add in some lemon juice at this time, and then also some ricotta cheese, and then blend that well together. No one is going to know that there is ricotta cheese in this cookie. It just gives it a good amount of moisture, and it keeps it nice and light, but you cannot tell it's ricotta. It's absolutely amazing. And then after you have that combined, you're just going to go in with your dry ingredients, blend that all together, and then we're going to portion the cookies out. So I went ahead and lined my baking sheet with some parchment paper. You don't have to do that, but then I just use my cookie scoop to scoop these out. It says to use about 2 tablespoons, I believe, for each cookie. Yeah, about 2 tablespoons for each cookie. I don't know what size my cookie scoop is. And then those are going to bake in the oven at 375 degrees for about 20 minutes. And then I went ahead and made the glaze while they were in the oven, which is just some powdered sugar, the other part of the lemon zest, and then some lemon juice, which I added a little bit at a time just so I wouldn't let it get too thin. But if you do make it too thin, all you have to do is add in a little bit more powdered sugar. But do not skip this glaze. It is amazing. And then for the cookies, I wanted to show you here, you just want to see where they start to lightly brown on the outside, because otherwise this pan I let go a little bit too long and the bottoms of them got a little bit too dark. So these cookies are not going to brown like other traditional cookies, like typical cookies like a chocolate chip would. So just keep that in mind. And then once the cookies had cooled down, I went ahead and topped them with the glaze, and that is all you have to do. And I am telling you, for the 100th time, you have to make these, especially for this time of year. How perfect going into summer to have a bright, refreshing lemon cookie. I really hope that you enjoyed seeing our ratings on these top-rated Food Network recipes. And if you like this style of video, please let me know in the comments down below, because I would be happy to test out more recipes for you. And I hope you have a wonderful day. I will see you in the next video.